The Taming of Coyote, Chapter 31. It only felt like they had been there like that for only a few minutes. However, time had cast but an illusion, and in reality, this half-slumber had stretched on for hours and into the night. It was the most contentment that either Sonia or Ezra had experienced in a while. It was nice, but it would come to an abrupt end. So lost in this small slice of bliss were they, that soft footsteps went unnoticed. The turn of the doorknob and even the creaks of the door opening went unnoticed, even to Ezra's keen senses. He was too involved in his clouded moment with her. "You horrid Jezebel!" Lord Grundle growled as he sucked in air. He just couldn't believe what he saw. Both Ezra and Sonia bolted to their feet. However, Sonia landed on a few shards of glass, despite Ezra's earlier attempt to move them. She let out a yelp as she dropped to her knees. "You betrayed me, Sonia! How could you? You are no god chosen! You are in league with the devils!" "They are not devils," Sonia spat through her pain. "The devils of Turn are not now and have never been the Coyotes. The devils are the Grundle family and all that were brought with them." "You insolent little bitch!" he hissed as he stormed forward. He raised his hand high, and he brought it down to strike her. She cringed as the hand came for her, but it never made contact. In a flash, Ezra lunged, and with a hellish snarl latched onto Lord Grundle's wrist, and bit down hard. He cried out as Ezra tried to whisk his head from side to side. "Ezra!" Sonia cried. "Ezra, stop!" Reluctantly, Ezra released Lord Grundle, and with Sonia's encouragement, he leapt out the window. Somehow he was able to hit the ground with no resulting injuries, and he bolted out of the alley, through the square, and back into the sanctuary of the woods. The whole way he let out howls and barks. Even before he was able to reach the woods, a chorus had already been summoned of wild howls and barking that carried deep within. As for Sonia and Lord Grundle, he grasped onto his wrist and glared at her with disdain and a scowl. "It is you!" "I've done nothing," she hissed as she dared to eye him. "You are bewitched! The man in the woods. He was no man, was he? You met Coyote!" "I have met Coyote, but I assure you, I am not bewitched," she replied. "I can promise you that. My mind and senses are very clear. Coyote is good and kind. You are the devil." He took a step back in utter disgust. "You gave yourself to him!" "You are sorely mistaken." "You've become a witch! That horrid woman has revived herself in you!" "I am a Turn!" Sonia shouted as she attempted to hold herself up high. "My ancestors founded this village. Turn had a glorious history of determination, faith, and triumph. The Grundles destroyed it. I hate you! I hate you! Emery Grundle! I hate you! I've always hated you! I never really knew for sure why, but now it is clear to me. If you feel that I am a reborn Lorraine, then I can only hate you more. Do you know what he did? What your beloved ancestor did to her? He murdered her! He murdered her baby! She was pregnant! She was killed for being a loyal wife and mother. Men of God killed a helpless pregnant woman. How could you admire such an evil man? How could you manipulate us into admiring him as the founder of Turn when the real founder was Avery Turn, and your ancestor was capable of such evil? And for what? You used her, and you used God to put your family in the position of dictators. You are tyrants. You use fear and your own skewed interpretation of religion as a weapon for your own whims and desires. You care nothing for the people of Turn, but only as pawns for you to move and control. I refuse to be your pawn. I know deep in my heart that it is not God that is offended by my wills, but a mere mortal man. No mortal man can have that sort of power over me against my will. Some day God will grow tired of your false preaching and corruption. He'll get even for your desire of political gain over the good of Christian intentions." Lord Grundle, to the surprise of both of them, smirked with a flat chuckle. She was so bold and mouthy. "If that is so, Sonia, you will never live to see that day. I will personally see to that." It was a long and uncomfortable night. The day following was no better. Lord Grundle was none too gentle with her. Ezra wasn't there to stop him that time. Beaten and bruised, Sonia was dragged to a cell and shackled to the wall. By now her arms were numb, having had them chained over her head for so many hours. Her eyes opened wearily. There was no telling specifically how late it was. Judging by the position of the sun, which now shone into her cell, it must have been sometime in the afternoon. She could hear a lot of people in the square. She wasn't precisely sure what was going on, but she could guess. Lord Grundle was predictable after all. As the crowd gathered outside, shock and puzzlement filled them as Lord Grundle made his way to the center of the scaffold. Word had spread quickly that morning. Who would have thought? Surprisingly, Sonia felt little to no fear. Her heart beat hard in her chest as she took long and deep breaths. Otherwise, she was solid and unwilling to dignify Lord Grundle with reactions. "People of Turn!" he called as he spread his arms wide. He received undivided attention. "For the last few years I have taken Miss Sonia Turn into my home. There, she was to be prepared and groomed to become my wife. I was happy to take on this task. She was young, she was beautiful, and she was chosen by God to work miracles. Or was she?" A brief pause allowed the Turnians to look back and forth amongst each other with a sense of confusion. "We have been deceived. Sonia was not in the care of a good Christian man for those many months she was lost in those woods. She had been taken under the roof of the very devil that we fight. She's been living with Coyote." That was enough to get a roar from the crowd. They gasped and whispered amongst themselves. The child had come face to face with Coyote himself. And survived? Was he certain that there was no miracle? Would the woodland devil tolerate any Turnians in his woods? "God was not at work," Lord Grundle continued. "The devil lured her into his den. She surrendered her soul to him. That child is not our innocent Sonia that we once knew. She has, like the horrid Lorraine before her, become a witch, enchanted by Coyote's temptation." "This is all our fault, Homer!" Aunt Esther cried as she buried her face into his chest. "We should have tried harder to keep her out of those woods. Because of our failure, that devil has led our precious little Sonia astray." Uncle Homer's face was cold and solid. He was a good, obedient Christian man. He had accepted the stories spoon-fed to him over his lifespan. But it was easy to accept them. They were people so long ago that he had never met. There was no connection other than bloodline alone. Sonia was different, and he was thinking back on it now. Homer had a brother of who had a lovely wife. They were Sonia's parents. While Sonia's mother was pregnant, her father had taken mysteriously ill. He had asked Homer to look after his wife and unborn child. He had died soon after. To add insult to injury, his wife had died in childbirth. Sonia became Homer's responsibility. Homer and Esther had raised Sonia as a child of their own. They loved her. God or no God, he felt a deep sting and a passion to protect. Lord Grundle was going to destroy the last hope for the Turn's continuing bloodline. "It has been decades, longer since Coyote reared his ugly head in Turn," Lord Grundle announced. "Once again he has created a Turn witch. It seems that Coyote has forgotten the power of God. We must remind him, and we must make Sonia an example." "Now hold on!" Uncle Homer shouted. All eyes fell on him. Even Lord Grundle seemed surprised by his outburst. "Sonia's still young. She can be a stubborn cuss, but she's no witch. You must be mistaken." "I saw it with my own eyes," Lord Grundle shouted. "She had a coyote with her in the bed. It obeyed her commands. She even named it." He pulled up his sleeve to reveal the dressed injury. Behold! She is a witch, in league with Coyote. She commanded the little devil to attack. She must be destroyed for the good of Turn. There must be another way, Uncle Homer insisted. Lord Grundle scowled. How could Homer question him? Fool! Still, it was clear that he needed to be convinced. Perhaps this was a signal from God, a message to not be so hasty. After all, he had put Sonia through violent, perverted, and unspeakable tortures the night before. Perhaps he broke her spirit, and she had been punished enough. With a sly smile, he gave a small bow. I will speak to her. I will go to her and explain her wicked ways. She will be given one last chance to ask for forgiveness. Sonia felt herself drift back into consciousness. Had she fallen asleep? Not much had changed outside, so she had probably only dozed for a few minutes. The loud creak of the metal door woke her completely. She gasped when she saw Lord Grundle enter and close the door behind him without the company of the guards. Isn't it funny, Sonia? You are so tattered, beaten and worn. Still, in this flickering torchlight, you possess an enchanting beauty that sets my body alight. She said nothing. He approached and knelt before her. He gently took her chin between his thumb and forefinger. Sonia could almost swear that she heard an aroused sigh escape him. Your girlhood will fade soon. The time is fast approaching the day you are of age to marry. That day will not come, according to you, she finally found the nerve to say. I am a merciful man, Sonia, he said. My anger was so much that I could not forgive you. However, I feel that I must try. You have developed into a beautiful young lady. It would be a pity to lose you. What are you trying to say? She asked. I can save you from the fate that awaits you out there. He almost purred. He patted his hand over the straw bedding. It isn't the most comfortable place, but it is suitable for you to be humbled. Beg me for forgiveness, Sonia. Say it. Say, please forgive me, Emery. I will unchain you then. I will give you forgiveness, and I will marry you the moment we step outside. Ask for forgiveness and rest here so that I may lavish it upon you. Do you not find this arousing? It is like a fairy tale, and I am your hero. So grateful are you, distressed damsel, that you would give it willingly as a gift this time, rather than have it taken from you, like before. He licked his lips and trembled in anticipation. Ask me, Sonia. Be mine. All of you. How could you overlook my actions and behavior? Through God's example. You are naive and easily distracted by something new. You are growing now, and you are able to leave such things in your past. I will give you a proper life of proper pastimes. All you need are those words. He leaned in close. All you need is to give me your body in gratitude. Closer he came to her lips. Say it, he whispered. Sonia could feel the heat radiating from Lord Grundle. Emery. Oh, Sonia. Yes. Suddenly her features hardened and she spat in his face. Go suck a toad! In an instant, Lord Grundle lunged forward, shot out a hand, and grabbed a fistful of her hair. He yanked her up by it with a roar. You stupid bitch! Look at you! What does this devil offer you? Look at what he has done to you! How can you still be so loyal to him? I can save you, Sonia! Why do you deny me? There are many reasons, Emery. You are an evil man. You abuse the trust of others, and put your own feelings and desires above those of God. A true holy man would never do to me what you have done. Coyote has never laid a negative or perverted hand upon me. She was already in for it now. She had nothing to lose. I fell in love with him in those woods. I am still in love with him. Lord Grundle struggled to keep some control. You love him? You would put Turn in danger for him? You would betray your village and die for such a crime? I would sacrifice myself in the name of the glory of Turn's beginning. I would die for the right. The right is with God. With God, Emery, not you. You should learn to know the difference. Lord Grundle released her and made his way to the door of the cell. You are stubborn, Sonia. It is a real pity. We could have had a prosperous life together. But if your heart is truly with Coyote, then I will send you to hell to be with him. It wasn't long after he left that a pair of guards entered, freed her from the wall, and pulled her along by her chains. She scowled, but dignified nothing more. She had spent the last few years pretending she was someone else, trying to deny Coyote was anything more than a dream. She would not pretend any more, and she was prepared to pay any price that it would cost her.